Okay. I think we're live. What's going on? Oh, there you go. Yeah, close it. Go ahead. Okay, it's live. No.
No?
I'll place it there. Well, this is just okay, wait. Is that all of you now? I mean, there are only two of you guys. You see, I can't just start like, you know, I can't just start like with just two people, right? I mean, it's a little pointless, right? Well, actually, you know what? Fine, let's start. So today we're going to learn about conditional statements. Okay, conditional statements. So last time, you know, just to review you guys, like we learned about how to like print stuff and how to take user input. But today, now we're going to make the program interactive. Well, interactive in the sense that the program can make decisions for you. You know, the program can run certain pieces of code, like depending on what your variables are, something like that. You'll see in a bit what I mean. So yeah, basically, you know, conditional statements allow you to make decisions for you. You know, it's like humans take at least like a millisecond to think about something, but computers take less than that. Like computers are ridiculously fast. It's like they're machines. So yeah. Okay, so how does the computer make decisions for you? So that's where conditional statements come in. And basically all I mean by conditional statements is these three: if statement, else if statement, and the else statement. And we'll get to that, like what those are, in a bit. So let's start with the if statement. So it's actually pretty simple. Like, judging from the name, you might already be able to tell like what is it. So basically, an if statement executes code when a condition inside the parentheses is true. I'll show you what that looks like in code. So this is what an if condition looks like. So there's a condition here, and then if that's true, then it does stuff. No, it can do anything really. So yeah, that's an if condition. Not too hard, right? Like, look at that. It's just one condition. Anyway, next is the else if statement. So the else if statement is just this time it's let's say that your if statement is false, but then you want something else to run when another condition is true, like right after the computer figures out that condition is false. So that's what this else if statement does. It executes code when the condition inside the initial if statement is false, but another condition, like right after, like in the else if statement, is true. It's like an alternate option, like an alternate path, like coming from an initial if statement. Like, yeah, that's basically it. So check this out. there's an initial if statement, and there's also an else if statement right here. So an else if statement can't really exist without an if statement, because the else if statement is just it kind of branches off of the if condition. So like, first it checks is this condition true, like if it checks if this condition is true, and then if it isn't, it goes to the next one, like, and then it checks is this other condition true. If it is, then I run some code. Well, it's not really complicated, right? Anyway, else statement. So the else statement is very similar to the else if statement, except it executes only when none of the conditions are true. Like when the if statement is false, when the else if statement is false, then the else statement runs. It's like, when everything fails, then do this, kind of like that. So like, it runs code when no other conditions are true. So check out, this is the syntax. So you have an initial if condition, and then there's an else statement here to catch for like situations where this condition is not true. But alternatively, you can use an else if statement before it, like if you want an alternate option that's separate from when everything fails. So it checks if condition is true, then run this code, but if it isn't, go to the next. Checks for another condition here. If it's true, run code. Otherwise, then everything must have failed, which is pretty sad. But luckily, we have the else statement to catch that situation where everything, like, before it is false. So one thing you need to know though is that this else statement must always be like on the last part. It cannot be like before the else if statement. Because like the else statement is like it's like when you say, when everything fails, do this. But if you put it before something like this else if, and it's like you're saying it kind of ignores this else if basically. Also, it's the compiler won't allow you to put it anyway because it actually doesn't make sense. Like, you know, like if you don't have this other condition, and then if you have this other condition and you're just gonna put it in the last part, if it's not gonna reach that part anyway, like because it goes to the else already, then you know it will be kind of like redundant. I should actually like draw out you know what I mean. Like, it's better demonstrated visually. So you have your if statement, like goes here, like if something is true. Really bad handwriting here, sorry guys. If something is true, then you go to the something, but then otherwise, oh god, if something else is true, yeah, something else, that's something even though it doesn't look like it. If something else is true, then do this, right? But then if nothing else is, the way this works is it's a little weird explanation here, like a little bit clumsy, sorry about that. So you have this thing, let's say you're checking for the conditions from left to right. So you go here, you check if that's true, and if it's not, it continues. And then so you know, all of a sudden you cut it short, there's an else statement right here. If nothing, if everything else before it is false, if everything before it is false, then do stuff. But then you'll never reach this extra condition here. You know, this guy gets left out, so that's not good. Like, this could potentially like ruin your program, like if you put the else if statement like at the very last. But the good thing is, like, you know, the programming language doesn't let you do it in the first place, so you're safe. You know, don't worry about it. Like, you know, the compiler will tell you, hey, you screwed up, so no, it's all good. So here's another way to think about the if else and else if statement, and it's pretty simple. So think of it like in Filipino. So if is kung, else if is pero kung, then else is pero kung hindi talaga. Like when, you know, it's like when everything else fails, you know. That's why this guy is sad, like, you know, hindi talaga. That's why he's sad. So yeah, that's actually it. Like, that's if else and else if, but there's more. Okay, it's like we didn't really discuss like what exactly are conditions. But you know, before that, like, let's just ask first, like, if any of you guys have questions. Any questions? Oh yeah, you can do a lot of else if right before the else. I'll show you. Like, let me open up Sublime Text. So wait. Okay, so one thing you can do is, like, for example, you have an if condition. What the hell, I can't zoom there. One thing you can do is, like, you have this if condition, and then you can have a bunch of else if. It doesn't matter how much, you can keep adding more branches, you know, like alternate paths. But as long as, you know, as long as you, like, don't put an else statement in the middle. That's what you shouldn't do. But one thing you should know though, like you don't really have to put an else statement all the time. You can leave it out. You can just have the else if. But sometimes it's really useful to have an else statement to really catch like all those extra instances that you didn't really think about, but you're sure that that are considered something that's gone wrong basically. So it reads this first. Is this condition true? Then goes to the else if. Is this condition true? Then if not, goes to the next one. And then if everything else doesn't work, then goes to the else. Or if there's none, then just ends. It's all good. Like this else statement is just it's optional. So is the else if statement. Sometimes you don't really need these two extra stuff. Like the most important thing here is the if statement. Because this is what you can't make decisions if you have no if statement. Like imagine if you can't say if in real life, then you'd be pretty screwed. Too much commitment. Anyway, it's not too difficult, right? So we'll continue. Like, so as I was saying, we didn't really discuss what conditions are. We just talked about the whole like if, else, if, and else. So what we talked about before was like how do you create that program flow, like going through all the possible options, but we didn't really talk about how do you specify those options. Different paths that your program can take. So okay, basically what all I mean by condition is it's just a comparison between two values. You're comparing two values, like if a certain relationship between them is fulfilled. And we'll see what exactly I mean by that in the next slides. But here's what you should know, like it's just a comparison. So okay, I have a little cartoon here. This is actually what we're gonna use to compare two values. These are comparison operators. Comparison operators, they're your buddies, okay? Trust me, they're really helpful. You can't live without them. So first things first, you want to check if one value is equal to another. Let's say you have an integer variable a, it's equal to 5, and you want to check if b is also equal to 5. Then you simply put a equals b in the condition. So there's a reason that it has to be double equals, because if you notice over here, this whole like single equals already taken. It's already being used for assigning values to variables, or initializing them with a value. So thing is, the computer is stupid. It always goes down to that. That's why we need to make it. The computer is the programming language is foolproof. Like for a computer, it simplifies everything, like to the point that there's no ambiguity for the programming language. Because the computer doesn't understand like context. Like, oh, we don't mean that you're assigning a to be equal to b. We really mean we're just checking for if a is equal to b. But the computer doesn't know that. The computer isn't very smart. So that's why we have syntax. It's why we can't just like command the computer like hey computer, give me the answer to life. It's not that simple. The computer doesn't understand what life is. It doesn't understand like words. So there you go. That's why we're using double equal symbol. So you can put anything inside this, like any piece of code you want to run. Like you can print something, you can do some other stuff, like you can add to a, for example, like make it 6 instead of 5. Anyway, just use your imagination. Like, so anyway, there's another comparison operator. It's called the not equal operator. So that's just an exclamation point and equals. So it's a bit weird looking, but the reason we have exclamation point and equals is because we don't have the, like in algebra, we have equal, and then the equal with the dash, but there's no way to write that down in the computer. So, you know, closest we got is this weird exclamation point and equals. You know, there are limits, okay? Like, you know, we can't put like all the possible like mathematical symbols on your keyboard. You know, you'd have a massive keyboard. So, you know, just think of it like it's the same as in algebra, the whole not equals thing, this thing, except this time it looks like you know, an exclamation point and equals. So basically it's just checking like if two values are not equal. So it's the complete opposite of this one. This one just checks if two values are equal, but this one checks if they're not equal. So, you know, just with these two you can get pretty far. Like, you can check the values for strings, booleans, characters, basically all the basic data types we've learned so far. You can use these comparison operators. So actually, before we continue, do you guys have any questions? Oh yeah, I'm gonna give the slides eventually. Like, I'm just still figuring things out because, you know, first things first, like, you know, CIIT is giving us a lot of deadlines. So, you know, I don't really have the time first and foremost. But eventually, all the slides that, you know, we've had so far, I'm going to upload them somewhere. You know, like even the first one. I'll just have to polish it a bit. So there you go. Equality, inequality. So that's what these two weird looking characters are. That's what I was trying to represent. Anyway, so next is the less than. So, you know, based off of the name, it just checks if the first value is less than the second value. So is A less than B? If it is, then do stuff. Something like that. So, you know, like, it's not hard to understand actually. Like, it's pretty intuitive. Yeah, and then actually one thing you can do now is like, let's say you already know that A is equal to B, or wait, A is not equal to B, then you can add an else if statement for A is not equals to B, or you can just straight up put an else. So now you can create code that does something when like A is equal to B and when A is not equal to B. You know, there's a lot you can do with that actually. It's just kind of hard to like give examples just because of like how much you can do with this. You just need imagination. Anyway, less than, same thing, like, you know that A is less than B, or you know that it's not less than B, maybe it's greater than B, then you can use an else if statement to catch all the other cases. And then yeah, let's talk about the next one. So there's the less than or equal as well. So we just talked about the less than thing, right? But what if you want to check if it's less than or equal? In programming, I mean in math, the way you'd represent less than or equal is like, hold on, like this. You have the less than, and you have the underscore right under it, like this thing, this line. But we don't have that. It's like I said, if you put all the mathematical symbols in math, they're not gonna fit on your keyboard. So, you know, to compensate, we just use less than and then equals. Simple, right? Programmers are pretty smart. You know, it's pretty intuitive. Like, you know, A is less than or equal to B. So that or part is part is pretty important. Like, it's not just checking if it's less than, it also includes the case where it's less than or equal. So, there's also a lot you can do with that. But you can also achieve the same result by using less than. Anyway, there's also greater than. Greater than is just greater than, like, it's not hard to understand. And then there's also greater than or equal to. So, again, not very difficult. A greater than or equal to B. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, we know now, like, what the possible conditions are. So, there's a lot you can do now, but it's still quite limited, because right now you only know how to do one condition at a time. You know how to go, like, you know how to check for one condition, then go to the next, and then go to the next, until none of them are true. But sometimes that's not what you need. Like, what if you need, like, multiple conditions, like, to run, like, you want to run code if multiple conditions are true, like, all of them are true. So for that, we have something called the end statement. End operator. So, like I said, like, we can't really use end in programming languages, because you might use that for, like, your, like, variable names. So to compensate, we're using this weird ampersand thing. 2 ampersands. If you don't know what an ampersand is, it's on top of your 7 key on your keyboard. Just press shift and then press 7. You have your ampersand. Put 2 of them. There's a reason why single won't work, but we won't get into that because it's a bit advanced. So, like, judging from what it is, like, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, time equals night, and deadlines equals 0 in this example problem. Like, you're given a string time and integer deadlines, and then print sleep now if time is night and deadlines are 0. So how do we do that in code? So, yeah, how do we code this? Sad face. Well, it's pretty simple. So, first of all, you have to declare time and deadlines. Maybe you'll take user input. Then we check, like, is time equals to night, and is deadlines equal to 0? So it's not actually hard. Like, you just chain them together with this ampersand. It's like glue. Anyway, there you go. Problem solved. So, yeah, now we know how to do stuff like if multiple conditions are true. But what if we want to do something where, like, either one of them are true? Like, if at least one of them is true, like, of all the possible conditions. For that, we have something called the OR thing. The OR comparison operator. Wait, it's not comparison operator, it's just an OR operator, okay? It's a logical operator. There you go. So, OR, the way we represent it is this weird pipe character. So, the pipe character is right beside your enter key. If you just press shift and then you press the one that looks like a straight line, then you get this pipe character. You print 2 of those, and then you get you check for whether either one of multiple conditions are true. Is true. If at least one of them is true. So, it's pretty self-explanatory. The only time an OR statement is false is when all of them are false. So, let's say we have a different problem. We have a string life, and then we want to print stay positive if life is rad or if it's sad. It's a positive message. So how do we do that in code? So, yeah, sad face. In code, we have the string life variable. Then maybe we take user input. Then, if life is rad or if it's sad, you stay positive. Whether it sucks or whether it's good, stay positive. That's pretty corny, but okay. So there you go. Those are the two like main logical operators. Oh yeah, and there's another reason why we can't just use one pipe character, and that's a bit advanced as well. Like, I can't discuss that today, sadly. But anyway, there you go. That's how you like check for at least one of them being true. Like if life is rad or life is sad. Oh, I missed a double quotation mark, but whatever. Anyway, is that all there is to conditional statements? Well, not really, actually. Yeah, there's even crazier stuff you can do. So, actually, before we continue, let's just see if you guys have any questions. So, any questions? Like, is everything clear so far? It's like, I mean, I kind of discussed quite a lot of stuff, didn't I? Alright, I mean, if things are clear, we're going to continue. We're actually almost there, we're almost finished. So, right, okay, now, we're going to learn about crazy stuff you can do with conditional statements, because, you know what, those stuff, they're pretty vanilla. Like, trust me, you can do even crazier stuff with conditional statements, with a little imagination. So, first thing you can do that's crazy is you can put conditions inside parentheses and then treat them as one condition. So you can sort of group them together, then you get an entire condition, and you can group them together again. Like, actually, hold on, let me draw this out. Like, this is a little confusing. So this condition 1 or condition 2, this is one condition. Then this condition 3 and condition 4, this is one condition as well. And then we merge them into one. This whole thing became one condition. Then you can have more, like there's an OR here. And then all of that is inside these parentheses, like, and then it's just one condition. You can go endlessly, like adding more conditions depending on like what you need. So, you just need to put them inside parentheses if you want to group them together. Just use your imagination and just figure out what you need for a problem. So there you go. That's one crazy thing you can do. And there's one last other crazy thing you can do. You can put them inside each other. You have ifs, inside elses, inside else ifs, inside elses, etc. You can go branching in as deep as possible. But if you're the type of person to go like five branches in, like 5 nesting in, then you're pretty crazy. I wouldn't want to look at your code. It's pretty hellish to look at. So like it all depends on what you need. But knowing that you can put them inside each other and you can group together conditions and treat them as one, there are so many possibilities. And combine that with the logical operators, like to chain together different conditions, like for or for and combine that with your comparison operators, like equality, inequality, less than or equal, greater than or equal. Then you have so many like possibilities. So now, like, that's a lot. Actually, that's a lot to take in, like, but you're basically set. You're set already for conditional statements. That's actually it. Yeah, that's all there is to conditional statements. You just need to practice. That's the essential part. You need to practice this stuff. It's like it's no longer a matter of like knowing the syntax. At this point, it's a matter of like solving problems. Like it's no longer a memorization thing. you have to think, you have to use your brain. So so there are actually, yeah, that's all. There are actually some problems that you can try out on your own, just to like, practice this. Like, here are some stuff you can try. So problem one, like, given a temperature in Celsius, like, print whether water boils in it or not. And in addition to, like, just checking if it's boiling or not, try to get user input as well, like, to make it interactive. Like, use CN. And then, like, if you're using Visual Studio, don't forget to put get car at the end. But if you're not using Visual Studio, let's say you're using REPL.it, an online compiler, then you can just do it as usual. And then there's the second problem. So, given a name, check if name is Jeff. If it is, my name is Jeff. Otherwise, say my name is not Jeff. And then problem number 3, given a year, check if year is in 21st century or not. If it is, then print 21st century schizoid man. Otherwise, print 20th century wholesome man. That's actually a reference to a 70s progressive rock band, but okay, you don't need to know that. But basically, yeah, these are some stuff you can do. I'll post the slides somewhere. Like, it actually doesn't take long to set up. Like, I'll just create a Google Drives folder so that you can revisit these. But actually, that's it. It's not that complicated. So there you go. That's actually it. That's conditional statements. So any questions, like, before we end this stream? That was actually extremely short. that wasn't even like 1 hour. Nice, right? So as long as you didn't forget, like, the previous lesson with the whole, like, taking input and like the structure of a C++ program, then you're all good. And even then, you can just, like, ask me on Facebook or something. So anyway, like, now that it's over, like, I hope you guys found this pretty fun. As usual, we're gonna have another one, like, next Sunday. This is going to be regular. So anyway, just tune in next time. So yeah, that's it. Bye.